Hi, this is Professor Cindy Moss, and I am going to be your instructor for this semester for your personal finance in action. This is one of my favorite courses to teach because it is so important to you no matter what phase in life you are at, to learn more about your personal finance. Even as I've taught this class for many, many years, every time I teach it, I bring away something. So hopefully every chapter is going to be important to you. You will have your favorite chapters. There will be chapters that will really resonate with you and you'll think, oh, I wish I had known this earlier. So I want to start off by saying some of the activities that are involved in financial planning are obtaining. So we'll be covering that in chapter 1. Planning, that's chapters 2 and 3. Saving, chapters 2 and 4. Borrowing, chapter 5. That's my least favorite chapter because that's what gets us in financial difficulty. Spending, chapters 6 and 7. Managing risk, chapters 8, 9, and 10. Investing, these are some of my favorite chapters, chapters 11 and 12. And finally, where I'm at now, because I officially retired at the end of spring semester, but I am still teaching online classes, retirement and estate planning, that is chapter 14. So as you can see, we'll be covering a lot of different information in this chapter. My suggestion is to make notes and keep these no matter what your age, because you can always go back and refer to them later on when you encounter something that you remember we covered. So let's get ready to get started with chapter 1. So let's start with chapter 1, which is personal financial planning and action. In this chapter, we're going to start by talking about making financial decisions. We're going to look at developing and achieving your financial goals, because you have to have goals. We're going to look at opportunity cost, and then the time value of money, which I feel like is so important. And then finally, we will finish up with a plan for personal financial planning. Hopefully at the end of chapter 1, you're going to have a plan. It may not be written in stone, but it's going to be what you're going to start with. That is what the whole chapter is getting something that you can start with and build from there. So let's start off by defining what personal finance planning is. When we think of financial planning, we think about it's the process of managing your money, and you're doing that to achieve your personal, and they say economic, I say financial satisfaction. What they're talking about here is, what do you want to do with your money? You want to control your money. You do not want your money to control you. The next thing that they talk about in our chapter is financial literacy. And financial literacy is the knowledge and skills for earning, saving, spending, and investing money, again, to achieve all those goals that you have decided upon. And then to do that, you need a financial plan. And a financial plan is all generally considered a formal report. And what it does is it's going to summarize your current financial situation. It's going to analyze your needs and your wants. And then it's also going to give you some guidelines, some recommendations for what you could do for your future financial independence. Some advantages of financial planning is that you're going to have increased effectiveness when you obtain and use, and also to protect your financial resources. It is using a financial plan, it's going to expand control of your financial affairs by not allowing you to have excessive debt and financial dependence on others. And then one of the most important things that I feel like is important when we're talking about financial planning is that it improves your personal relationships. If you and your spouse or your parents or your significant other are always in debt, you're always struggling from payday to payday to payday. And guess what, people? We have all been there. We've always had, some of us have all had to live from payday to payday to payday. It does get better as you get older, but if you start um, controlling your finances now and not letting your finances control you, it is going to make your life easier. It's going to make your relationship with others easier because it's not a focal point and causing a lot of fights. The number one factor, and if you'll do your research, you'll see what I'm talking about, is that cause of divorce is finances. There's a lot of causes of divorce, but the major factor in divorce is, I say, lack of financial freedom. The next slide you're going to see is about a 5-minute video from one of Dave Ramsey's people, Chris Hogan, and he's talking about how to start getting out of debt. So make sure you watch that. So let's look at some factors that are going to influence your financial planning, and they include your life situation, personal factors, some socioeconomic changes, and some values. So the first one we want to look at is the stages in the family situation and financial needs of an adult, and that is known as the adult life cycle. Generally, after you graduate from college, you're going to move out. You're not going to be living with your parents. You may stay with your parents for a little bit after graduation, but hopefully you're going to be able to move out, and then that's when you're going to have your own budget, and you're going to have to manage your own finances. And so that is called the adult life cycle. There's some other things that are personal factors that are going to influence your spending and saving patterns. They're going to include your age. When you're 22 and you graduate and you get that first job, and wow, you're making $36,000 to $40,000 a year, you think you have Rockefeller, you have hit the jackpot. Then you go to find out that you are going to have to pay taxes. You're going to have to buy car insurance. You're going to have to buy renter's insurance. You're going to have to pay utilities. You're going to have to buy your lunch, different things like that. So that is something that, as you mature and you get into your 30s, then you've kind of settled down, and maybe you're not spending as much. So age is a big factor. Your income, how much you make, and you're going to see a slide at the very end. But I want to insert this saying right here because I want you to hear it and hear it and hear it. It's not how much you make; it's how much you spend. Let me say that again. It's not how much you make; it's how much you spend. If you spend more than you make, then you're going to be in financial bondage. Your household size. If it's just you, you don't need as much. If it's you, a spouse, and a child, then you've got to base everything based on that. And then your personal beliefs. And what that means, it's the ideas or values that you consider correct, desirable, and important. And that goes down here with our values. So here's some things that will also influence your financial needs. People just graduating from college, they're not getting married as soon as 10 years ago. They're delaying getting married. A lot of them aren't even getting married until their 30s. Now we generally have dual income households where both spouses work and contribute. We also are now seeing a large population of single parent households. That means a father raising children or a mother raising children. And a lot of times they don't have the economic dependency of another person to help them. And then one thing that I want to mention here for that's very, very prevalent today is caring for both children and elderly parents. This is something that we're seeing a lot of, even with people in their 30s. They're having to step in and help their parents out because maybe their parents did not prepare for retirement and now they can't financially live on their own. So they're having children are having to take care of not only their children but their parents. So let's talk about financial planning in our economy. Daily economic transitions facilitate financial planning. So that could be selling your stocks and bonds if you have any, buying certificates or commodity futures, different things like that. Economics, and if you have not had microeconomics or microeconomics, you will be taking those in the future. Hopefully you've already had them. It is the study of how wealth is created and distributed. And it includes both business, labor, and government together, working together to satisfy the needs and the wants. The Federal Reserve System, or you're going to hear it when you're out in the working world talking about the Fed, and what that does is they attempt to secure adequate money supply to encourage consumer spending, business growth, and job creation. Now I'm going to stop here and I'm going to interject some things of my own that I have seen. I am recording this in May, which right now we're in we are coming out of a pandemic, which slowed our economy down because a lot of small businesses closed down. A lot of the major corporations went to virtual selling and different things like that, which, you know, created a little bit of just a stoppage in our economy. But then we had supply and demand. And one of the major factors I can think of that is starting last Tuesday, we had a gas shortage because there was a cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline. And by doing that, it drove up gas prices. Gas prices went from $2.49 was what they were at the Ingalls in Canton, and within 30 minutes they shot up to $2.99. That's 50 cents a gallon. They could do that because of supply and demand. People panicked. They ran out. They filled up their cars. They filled up gas containers. Some of them were even filling up plastic bags. I can't believe anybody would ever do that. But that shows what supply and demand does. So when we're looking at doing a budget, and we're going to be doing that in chapter 2, I want you to always think about how quickly prices can turn, just like that. Boom. You know, you're paying $2.49 for a gallon of gas, and within 30 minutes you're paying $2.99. And in some places it went up to $3.49, different things like that. So when you're looking at a budget, always know it can't be written in stone, but that's where you have that, what we're going to work on, a little bit of a leeway and an emergency fund, so that if something does happen, you are prepared. You're not sitting back and saying, oh my gosh, I need 5 gallons of gas, but I only allocated $2.49 a gallon, and now it's $2.99. What do I do? This slide is just talking about global influences for financial planning. Always keep in mind, and again, when you've had economics, you're going to remember this, that our economy is affected by foreign investors and competition from foreign companies. One of the big things that you could think about here is our jobs that have moved to Mexico. because they can't pay workers the salaries that they can get people in Mexico or other countries to work for. Also, import export. Now remember, import is what we bring in and export is what we ship out. And when we look at our level, if it's not even, say we're importing more, we're bringing in more than we're shipping out, then our ratio is going to have our dollars decline. So because we're using more money overseas than we're sending it, our workers and our things overseas to be manufactured, and so we're doing that. And then also the third one is how foreign investment affects the domestic money supply, and that is for people when foreign countries invest. For instance, our main country that we borrow money from is China. So it does affect our domestic supply. And then the most important out of all four of these is right here. Money supply affects consumer interest rates. I'm sorry, I'm going to get political here. As a country, we cannot keep printing money and just giving out money. All that's doing is false security. And if nobody's working, then everything that our money is going to buy is going sky high because people aren't working, which makes it supply and demand. And so if I'm trying to get, for instance, I read an article that chicken was going sky high because the chicken farmers can't get the seed because to feed the chickens, because the farmers can't get people to help work the fields so that they can have the corn and the wheat and different things like that. So when you were buying chicken breast for 99 cents a pound, now it has skyrocketed and it's $2.49 a pound. So again, those are things that you have to be prepared for as you begin to grocery shop. And this slide just basically goes right along with the one we were just talking about, inflation, and that's the rise of the prices. When we're experiencing inflation, which we are starting to slowly creep up, the buying power of the dollar decreases. You cannot buy the same thing for right now what you got it for 2 years ago. And it is most harmful to people with fixed incomes. That may not be you guys, but it may be your parents, it may be your grandparents. And then of course inflation rates are going to vary. It doesn't stay constant. And then the CPI, you'll hear this again in your micro and macroeconomics, and it's just your consumer price index, and it measures the average change in prices that a consumer pays for a fixed basket of goods. And then what this does is, and it's right here, it's hidden inflation. It's sometimes so small that you don't really feel it until it hits your budget. One thing I can point out, and I do like to throw in a lot of examples so you'll see that, but eggs, I can remember last year I was paying 59 cents a dozen for eggs. Now I'm paying $1.49 a dozen for eggs. That's inflation. And then deflation is the decline in prices, which we don't have that happen very often. So let's talk about the rule of 72. This is a rule, and it's a really quick way for you to be able to compute real quick how much something that you have or inflation is going to double. So it's how fast prices or your savings are going to double. So one of the examples is an annual inflation rate of 4% means prices are going to double in 18 years. So it was 72 divided by 4 because it was 4% there, and then it's 18 years. Okay, this is just an example of, say, for instance, you bought a acre of land in Canton, and we know that the value of land in Canton is increasing 6% a year. So how long, say for instance, if I paid $10,000 an acre, how long is it going to take my property values to double? I just take that 72, I divide it by the percentage. So in 12 years, that $10,000 acre of land should be worth $20,000. All right, and the final slide I want to talk to you about in this section is interest rates. This is very important that you know about interest rates, because interest rates represent the cost of money. So what interest rates do, supply and demand is going to influence interest rates. When you're earning, you receive as a saver investor, it's interest rate or risk premium. So you have to think about how the interest rates affect you. If you go to buy a house right now, 2021, interest rates buying houses are at an all-time record low. This time next year, they're going to go up. I guarantee you they will be 7% by next year, probably 5 to 7%. That's going to affect how big of a house you can buy, how much you can afford. Go to get a credit card, interest rates are going up. So that is why interest rates affect you personally, because it's going to affect how much money you have available for things you want to buy. Our next group is going to be talking about setting financial goals. Most people don't think about having to set financial goals. You know, we have a goal of graduating from college, but you need to also, when you're thinking about goals, to start thinking about some of your financial goals. So there are three types of goals that you want to set. You want to set a short-term goal, which is going to be achieved probably within a year. The example they give is saving for a vacation or paying off small debts. So that might be one. One of them that you as college students would want to think about would be maybe starting an emergency fund. And that could be, say, having $500 in an emergency fund. An intermediate goal is generally going to have a time frame of 2 to 5 years. And then a long-term goal involves financial plans that are 5 years or more. One of those, retirement, money for children's college education, or even the purchase of a vacation home. Now, the next slide has a video on it about setting what is called SMART. And SMART is an acronym that I want you to put ingrained in your brain, so that every time you're thinking about goals, whether it's financial or it's personal goals, you'll have these. Let's talk about opportunity cost. When we are discussing opportunity cost, we are saying that I am going to give up something in order to get something that is more desirable or worth more than what I'm giving up. The example that they show on our slide is that you don't buy an item now to save for a future purchase. So maybe you're in the market for a new car or a certified used car, as we'll talk about later. So now you don't go out to eat every Friday night. You take that $100 that maybe you would be spending to go out to eat every Friday night, and you take that and you put it up as a down payment so that you can buy that car 2 years down the road. So opportunity cost is what you give up, and it's often referred as a trade-off. A lot of times it can be measured in dollars and cents, but it can be viewed in terms of personal and financial resources. One thing that I always think about when I think about opportunity cost, say for instance, you don't go out every Saturday night with your college friends and party and have a really good time because you have to stay at the dorms or at home or wherever you live, and you have to write a term paper. That because you want to be on the dean's list, you want to graduate with a 4.0 grade point average. That is opportunity cost. You've given up a Saturday night in order to write a term paper. So when we're talking about personal opportunity costs, they can include things like time or energy, health, abilities, knowledge. Financial opportunity cost would be that I have $100 today. Would I prefer to have that today or $103 from a year from now? Or would I want $120 a year from now or $100 today? So that means, what am I giving up to make that money grow? And a lot of you are sitting here thinking, $103? No, I'm going to take that $100 and spend it. But you have to think about that the $3 next year would be $6, and then $9 and $12, and it would continue to grow. So let's talk a little bit about time value of money. And that is what this whole personal finance class is going to be based around, is what about what you're doing with your money. So time value of money is, the definition is the increase in the amount of money as a result of the interest earned. So on the previous slide, we talked about you had $100 and a year from now you had $120. That $20 is that interest you earned. That's the time value of money. So saving today will result in money tomorrow because of the interest you earned. Spending today results in the loss of potential interest. So if I have $100 and I took that $100 and I put it in a savings account and I earned $20, now I have made $20. I have added $20 to my net worth. If I take that $100 and I spend it, now I no longer have that $100. I don't have that $20 I could have earned in interest. Saving and spending decisions involve the consideration of your current needs. Now, let's talk about needs and wants. Needs are those things you must have to survive. And if you remember from any of your psychology class, Maslow's hierarchy, the very bottom tier, you had those needs: housing, food, clothing, water, electricity. Those are the things you have to have in order to survive. Wants are possibly those needs, but they're elevated. I need shelter. I need a house. Am I willing to live in a $200,000 house, or do I want to live in an $800,000 house? That's how you distinguish. I need to have food, but do I have to go to the most expensive steakhouse in Atlanta to get that steak? Or can I go and just buy a steak at Kroger and cook it myself? That's what you want to think about when you're thinking about needs and wants. Savings are how much I put away each pay period. You don't have to put your whole paycheck away. I can say, all right, I'm going to save 10% of my paycheck. Every time I get a paycheck, I'm going to save it. Then I have the rest to spend. So when you're talking about time value of money, you have to think about your interest calculation. So this is kind of just a breakdown. The amount that you're saving, which is always referred to as the principal, what is your interest rate, and what is the length of time. So it's the amount of savings times your interest rate times your period will equal how much money you've made. And this one is just a video on the time value of money.